And so is a trust necessarily only active in the event of someone's death? I mean, is it something that can come into effect? I mean, I imagine there's lots of situations that.
Yeah, so you can create a trust that would only exist after you pass. So for example, if you had a will, you may say, I leave things in trust to my spouse or in trust to my kids. So that type of trust does not exist until you pass and we go through probate. Or you can create what we call a living trust. And the way I just kind of describe that to my clients is we're creating this trust while you're living, therefore we think of it as a living trust. That trust exists while you're alive. As soon as you sign it and execute the document, that trust exists. Initially, it's unfunded. So, By the way, I think of a trust like a bucket. So if you picture a big bucket, you've created the bucket, but an empty bucket doesn't do us a lot of good. We've got to put stuff into it. That's what we call funding. And then you've got to designate somebody who's in charge of the bucket. That's the trustee. Mm-hmm. So who's going to put stuff in, manage it while it's there, and take it out and distribute it out to the beneficiaries.
And does it have to be one person? I mean, you can have several trustees.
You can, yeah. So if it's a husband and wife, very often both husband and wife are going to be co-trustees of that trust. Not always, but a lot of times that's the case. If it's a single person, that single person can be the trustee. You could have a third-party trustee. There's situations where that's going to come into play, but a lot of times if you create a trust, you're going to be the trustee of that trust.
Mm-hmm. And for people like our audience tonight, that are in business, and maybe they're operating several. But why is it that you encourage them, or maybe you don't? I don't know. Would you encourage them to look into a living trust, and if so, why?
I think it really comes down to what your goals are. One of the things that a lot of people don't enjoy about probate is that it's slow. It takes a while. It's not free. It costs some money. Yeah. And it's public. So for most folks, you're not going around passing around copies of your wills. I didn't see anybody here say, here's a copy of my will, take a look at it. That's a private document while you're alive.
Oh, good to know.
Another thing that you're probably keeping private is your financial data. How much money's in your bank account, what's in your 401k, how much is what's your business worth, stuff like that. When you pass and you go through probate, anything that is submitted to the court becomes a public record. And so your will, private while you're alive, but when we go through probate, you can get online, anybody can get online, a free account with the Montgomery County Clerk, Harris County Clerk, doesn't matter, and you can read any will that's just been submitted up there for probate. Oh, wow. For example, I was using this example a few years ago, and I pulled up the will of Barbara Bush, former First Lady of the U.S. It's on file with Harris County Court, Probate Court number 1. And you can see where George W. signed it as the executor of the estate. And so it's not just for normal people that have to do that. Presidents, do that. And so first, it's public. And then the inventory, while we don't always have to produce that to the probate court, very often we do. And that lists all your assets that are considered in that probate matter. It also shows the value of those assets. So all that financial data that you've been keeping close to the chest while you're alive, that very often becomes public after you pass away. And so to your question, Craig, do you need a trust? It depends. If you're comfortable with disclosing all that stuff when you pass, then a will's going to be perfectly fine. If you would rather keep things a little bit more private and not have the courts involved in what's going on, then a trust may be a good option for you.
So it sort of shields you a little bit from the public eye if you don't want to just be disclosing your financial data and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a way to help you keep things a little bit more private and confidential. Because frankly, when it gets down to it, a lot of folks really don't love the fact that their neighbor or their disgruntled heir can know, hey, I wasn't part of the will, or I didn't know you were worth X number of dollars. I thought you were less than that.
Well, weird stuff. That's the thing is weird stuff happens when people die. Yep. People come out of the woodworks and be like, I want part of that, and it's like, who are you? And that weird stuff happens. It's why it's really, really important to take care of this ahead of time.
Yep.
Yep. There's a painting in my parents' house that my sister and I have agreed to leg wrestle over.
Oh,
She
someone
beat you
needs to
on that.
video.
She might, but I think my mom actually put it in the trust, and I asked her what she did, and she's like, "It'll be a surprise."
Oh, jeez.
That's not fair. We needed to have combat. It's the only fair way.